When we observe the natural world, we consistently find structures that appear to be purposefully arranged. From the mechanics of an insect's jaw to the deliberate unfurling of a petal, these precise arrangements raise a serious philosophical question. How do we explain the origin of biological machinery? In 1802, the philosopher William Paley offered a powerful framework to answer this. He asked us to imagine walking across a heath and striking our foot against a rock. If asked how the rock got there, we might reasonably conclude it had always been there. But if we found a pocket watch on the ground, that same answer no longer works. Paley used this pocket watch to define spatial order, the precise arrangement of complex parts, like gears and springs, working together to tell time. Because of this precise arrangement, Paley formulated his first premise. This cannot occur by random chance. It necessitates an intelligent watchmaker who deliberately engineered it. Paley also anticipated a counterargument. What if the watch contained a mechanism to manufacture other watches? He rejected this idea of infinite regress. Even if a machine produces another machine, it still does not explain how the original, complex arrangement of parts came to exist in the very first instance. This establishes Paley's core assumption. For Paley, functional complexity is an absolute, undeniable indicator of an intelligent origin. Having established the rule for mechanical objects, Paley transfers this exact logic to living organisms. He argues that the biological systems found in nature exhibit a level of complexity that vastly exceeds anything created by human hands. This schematic illustrates Paley's primary biological example, the intricate structure of the human eye. Notice how the cornea, crystalline lens, retina, and optic nerve, labeled C through K, form a perfect physical path. They are arranged specifically for vision, mirroring the precisely placed gears of a pocket watch. This allows Paley to formalize his third premise. If a watch has spatial order, and spatial order implies a designer, then the natural world, exhibiting vastly greater spatial order, must follow the same rule. Therefore, the natural world must be the product of an incredibly intelligent designer, which Paley concludes must be God. Paley's entire worldview rests entirely on this logical bridge. He connects the empirical observation of biological efficiency directly to the strict logical necessity of a divine architect. For many decades, Paley's logic held firm. To defeat it, an opponent would have to find an alternative, entirely naturalistic explanation for how things appear designed without actually having a designer. This is the title page of Charles Darwin's 1859 text on the origin of species. Darwin provided exactly that alternative explanation, challenging the theological consensus of the entire era. Darwin's theory of evolution rests on a completely blind mechanism. As organisms reproduce, random genetic mutations occur continuously over time, producing entirely new traits. If a randomly generated trait helps an organism survive, it's more likely to be passed on. This creates a powerful illusion of design. We only observe specialized traits because organisms with unbeneficial traits died out, making the winners appear perfectly engineered from the start. Over millions of years, this entirely unguided, blind process accumulates microscopic advantages, eventually building extreme biological complexity, like the human eye, without requiring any deliberate blueprint. This targets Paley's logical framework directly. Paley argued that complexity requires an intelligent designer. Darwin introduces a scientifically verifiable mechanism, natural selection, that produces the exact same result. Darwin does not deny the astonishing complexity of the eye. He simply proves that a creator is no longer a logical requirement to explain its existence. Natural selection removes the need for Paley's designer. But another biological observation challenges the idea that a perfect designer was ever involved at all. If we shift our focus away from the functional perfection of the eye, we find glaring structural flaws. This introduces the concept of spatial disorder, features in the natural world that are chaotic, inefficient, or actively harmful. This diagram displays a classic example of spatial disorder, the vermiform appendix. It is a vestigial organ serving no active purpose. Worse, it represents a lethal vulnerability, doing nothing but occasionally becoming infected, threatening the life of the host. We find an even more extreme example of biological inefficiency in the recurrent laryngeal nerve. This is a nerve that connects the brain to the larynx or voice box. In mammals like the giraffe, the larynx and brain are close together. A direct route is about an inch. Instead, this nerve travels 5 meters down the neck, loops entirely around the heart, and travels all the way back up to the voice box. If the world were created by Paley's flawless, intelligent designer, we would expect consistent perfection. The presence of this active wastefulness suggests either a remarkably incompetent architect or a completely blind natural process. Paley formulated a direct philosophical defense against this objection of spatial disorder. He returns to his pocket watch analogy. He argues that if a watch occasionally malfunctions or contains an internal part with no clear purpose, you would still immediately conclude it was designed. Broken machinery is still machinery. For Paley, the exact ratio of order to disorder in the universe is irrelevant. You do not need to weigh them against each other. The existence of any functional spatial order is enough to mathematically infer a designer. But the evolutionary counter-reply strikes back using a concept called explanatory power, the ability of a theory to account for all observed evidence, not just a portion of it. As we've seen, natural selection successfully accounts for spatial order through the slow accumulation of survival advantages over millions of years. But unlike Paley's theory, natural selection also perfectly accounts for spatial disorder. Useless traits like the appendix or the looping laryngeal nerve are simply evolutionary hangovers. They are inefficient remnants from ancient ancestors that are not actively damaging enough to be evolved out of the gene pool. Evolution defeats Paley's defense because it leaves no biological mysteries behind. It provides a single, comprehensive explanation for both the brilliant engineering and the biological garbage found in nature. When we step back and view the entire structural debate between teleological design and naturalistic evolution, the ultimate logic becomes remarkably clear. Let's map out the final comparative framework. Paley observes functional spatial order and strictly infers the existence of a perfect designer. Darwin objects by providing natural selection, an unguided alternative mechanism that severs the necessary link between complexity and deliberate design. Observation of spatial disorder points out biological inefficiencies, implying an architect that is deeply flawed or non-existent. In the final standoff, evolution wins on ultimate explanatory power, accounting for both order and disorder in a single model. Paley was absolutely correct to identify the stunning complexity of biological machinery, but Darwin revealed that the ultimate watchmaker is not divine. It is incredibly slow, entirely blind, and completely natural.